All right, guys, welcome to our second installment of our anti-bias bullying training. Tonight, we're going to be discussing cyberbullying and internet safety with our wonderful partners who are going to introduce themselves very, very quickly. And then they're going to go through their presentation. There's going to be a lot of really good information for you. This will be archived as well, so please, please, please do share it with folks that couldn't make it this evening so that you can watch and get this information. Would love to hear your feedback too. So without further ado, let me introduce the talent. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Casey Rodenbush. I'm Services Manager for Monterey County Behavioral Health, and I'm the creator and leader on the Rainbow Connections project that I have the pleasure of working in collaboration with Harmony at Home. So, and have Denise introduce herself.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Adeza. I am the Rainbow Connections Bullying Prevention Specialist for Harmony at Home, and I am here with our Program Manager, Julie.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for being here with us. Again, my name is Julie Mandaro. I'm the Program Manager for the Bullying Prevention Program with Harmony at Home. And in collaboration with these amazing people, we are really excited to put forth this cyberbullying and internet safety workshop for our parents that are here. We have some really good insight for everyone, and I'm excited to present all this information forward to you guys. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first question that I have for parents to ponder on is, how many hours per day are your children online? How many hours per day are they in front of a screen? And it's pretty impressive when you look at the statistics, because how many hours do you think your kids? 4 hours per day, right? So we think about that, and you think about the bigger picture, and our kids are full-time students, right? And now they're taking on a part-time job of being in front of a screen. And what are they getting out of this? What are they on? What are they watching? Is it video game platforms? Is it social media? Is this a positive contribution to their mental health? So we're going to dive in on a couple more questions, but I really want you to think about how much time your kids are spending online, because some of us are completely unaware if they're on their phones before they come to school. And while they're in school, they have no phones, right? Yes, talk to me.
Well, I was going to say, I hope you guys have talked to your kids about what's going on at our advisory lessons right now, but we're focusing on screen time, how much screen time students have, the effects on the brain, the dopamine, and all that kind of stuff. And I am sad to report that we gathered some survey data, and 51.9% of our students average 4 hours a day or more on screen. I don't even really want to discuss the weekend numbers, because you're getting into the 6 to 8 to 10 hours of screen time per day. So we actually do have that data, and we can throw that up on the website if you guys are interested, but really good question to ponder. And it's what we thought, basically.
And I mean, that's pretty far-fetched. That's everywhere,
yeah.
Right? That's everywhere. So how much time are our kids losing without the ability to be social with one another? How many of them are looking up when they're walking from home to school? How many of them are making eye contact? How many are they socializing, right? This screen is robbing them from the opportunity to connect with potential people around them. So we're going to transition off to the next slide, and we're going to identify the definition. Denise, you want to read the definition of what cyberbullying is?
Yes. So what is cyberbullying? Cyberbullying is the use of electronic communication tools such as social media, messaging apps, gaming platforms, or other digital technologies, which is being used to harass, to intimidate, or to embarrass somebody or another individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So the highlighted words are the importance, right? So it's the electronic communication where students are being harassed. They feel it's repetitive, right? Because if it goes up online, it's posted and it's published and it's up forever, because it takes one person to screenshot an image in order for it to be online forever, even if it's taken down what we would think immediately, right? It's published, it's shared, it's posted. So let's talk about a couple examples of cyberbullying behaviors.
Yeah, so just some examples of we encourage students to look out for these behaviors if they ever encounter somebody showing these kind of behaviors, which is sending aggressive or threatening messages via text, email, or social media, posting hurtful or embarrassing photos or videos of someone without their consent. Spreading rumors, lies, or false information about that person can also be an example. Pretending to be somebody else or impersonating someone else to intimidate that person, pretending to create like a fake account, also called like catfishing. It's a big one. That kind of causes students to feel like fear because they don't really know like who's behind the screen. They don't know. It's like they're more vulnerable when that comes to that situation.
Right.
Also being excluded from online group chats or activities intentionally, and also publicly shaming or calling out somebody through social media.
Right, I agree. So a lot of it is a lot of our privacy. What are we doing to be private in our accounts? If we are adding people, if we are not having the conversation with our children about the safety of not adding somebody that we don't know, or if it's catfishing, they're pretending to be somebody else. Just having that safe space at home to where you can communicate with your kids about the possibilities of what is out there, because once you allow somebody in, you don't know what it is that they're going to be taking out of there. And there's so many different apps nowadays where I always ask the question, there's a lot of students that are on gaming platforms that get muffled when they put on their headsets. And there's a lot of conversations and exposure that's being said in those game rooms. And my question to a parent is, would you allow a complete stranger to come to your house and sit down at the dinner table and allow them to express themselves freely and influence your child and pre-expose them to information that's probably not supposed to be within their age range, right? My immediate answer is no. So we got to be really careful of what it is that, how much time they're spending on these platforms, what exposure they're getting out of these platforms, and also empowering them to where if they identify that this is not a safe space, we are teaching them how, and we are communicating how to remove ourselves out of that space, right? Because it's all just exposure, and it's exposure to things that, I mean, sometimes we aren't aware that's going on, right? There's everything just moves so fast, especially with technologies and new influencers, that really just having to empower our children to know when it's safe and when it's not, and when to remove themselves from that situation is, I think, very important. So we're going to have Casey come on up here and talk about bias-based cyberbullying.
All right, so a form of bullying that can be extremely painful for our youth and anyone actually is bias-based cyberbullying. So that is when a youth is specifically targeted because of their minority or legal status, or protected status. So it's discriminatory behavior, and it's essentially calling out and harassing students and bullying them based on their sexual orientation, their race, their gender identity, and their disability. So this can really contribute to mental health issues in our youth. And so we really want to be attuned to what we're hearing in our environment so that we can intervene as soon as possible, because the words can really, really harm and impact the self-esteem that can really lead to, well, we're going to talk about all the impacts here in a little while, but when it is targeted based on an identity, that's considered bias-based cyberbullying.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Casey. So just like Casey said, we're going to go a little bit into the statistics of this. So if we look at the statistics, it says according to recent studies, approximately 30%, 37% of our youth have experienced cyberbullying. And that increases to 60% of the ones that have witnessed it. How many of those witnessed reports have we heard of? Right? We think about it, and how much conversation are we having on how to report this? Are we teaching our little ones, our kids, how to report, what to do, how to remove themselves out of this? So like Casey had mentioned, the impact that it has on our youth. That means that they're anxious when they're in school. Do they want to show up to school? Did something happen over the weekend that makes them feel uncomfortable to come to school? And there's responsibilities that the parents have, right? Because who are the ones that are fostering the opportunity for our youth to have our phones, right? Parents, because the kids aren't paying for their cell phones, right?
Right.
We're the ones paying for it. So it's always important to address to our kids the responsibilities that fall when you have a phone. A phone is a responsibility, it's a privilege, it's not a right? And there's digital citizenship that we all need to have, and we all need to report and speak up on certain circumstances that could, maybe an issue can come of in the future, right? There can be somebody can get hurt, and if we are pre-exposed to that, you're responsible to report and talk and share, right, to a trusted adult of what it is that's going on. So yeah, do you want to add anything to that?
I would just say, this is Mr. Roach, by the way, off camera. I would just say that it is the exact same thing as if somebody were to walk straight up to your face and say something back. You have the same responsibility to say something about that too. Later on in the slide deck, parents, we're going to be discussing ways you can monitor your students so that you can know where they go. But I couldn't agree with what you said more. And apps these days are built to be invisible and to erase the icky things that are being said. So they're really kind of feeding into it.
Right.
And it is vital for families to know about that and kids to really understand that before they get cell phones. Cell phones used to be something you got in 7th, 8th grade. Now cell phones are 3rd, 4th, 5th grade.
Right.
So we need this K-12 education to stop this nonsense and understand digital citizenship, right? How to act and behave online. But really, it is the exact same thing as somebody called you a name. You need to say something.
And the reporting part.
Yep.
And it's the importance of reporting. It's not snitching, right? It's reporting. We are calling to action that there needs to be an end to something.
And one more thing, guys, a plug for See Something, Say Something. That's at all of our sites. There's QR codes all over all the schools. And that is an anonymous reporting system. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Please utilize that if necessary. And your name will not be used, but it'll allow us as school officials to be able to act on that information. So please use it.
Thanks, Doug.
Of course.
And identifying red flags. You want to go ahead and share all that, Denise?
Yeah, so these are just some ways how the youth can or the parents can identify any of these red flags when it comes to cyberbullying. If there's any behavioral changes that might indicate a child or a youth that is being bullied or bullying others through social media, that is if they're using or overusing their devices reluctantly. There's a change in mood, such as increased irritability or sadness, maybe just withdrawing from everything, not feeling in the mood to do or participate in family activities and such at home. Unexplained drops in grades or interest in activities, not being a part of the school academics, avoiding school as well can be another example or a red flag.
Thank you. And so we have a little bit of internet safety basics, right? So it's age appropriate screen time. What is age appropriate screen time? Right? So it's 1 to 2 hours for the younger ones. And we also have to take into consideration that if there are electronics at school, how much screen time are they already getting at school? Are they on laptops at school? Are they our little ones? How much exposure to screen are they getting there? That again, it's the look up movement, right? Where you are making eye contact and having conversations. So really just even talking to educators and asking and posing that question, how much screen time are they already getting at school? So setting those age appropriate screen times is very important. Also setting parental controls, right? I know for, our little ones, there's certain apps that you can use or even just the phones themselves. You can set certain blockers. There's also certain apps that you can use like Bark. There's Net Nanny. There's a couple of different apps that you can use to include into the software of the phones, so you are alerted of what it is that that they're trying to search or it's trying to populate on their feed, right? monitoring their online activities, watching, looking at their feed and their history. And that's also something that we need to talk, like it needs to be an open conversation, right? Like, hey, is there something on your phone that you probably shouldn't? And allowing that trust, because we don't want to break that trust and feel like we're being sneaky, or they're being sneaky with us, and we're trying to like catch them and in a wrongful doing. We want there to be trust. We want there to be that safe conversation at home to where they can bring it up, right? Like, hey, I did see that. I thought it was inappropriate, and I removed myself from that, right? I did want to, there's a book I'm reading right now. It's called The Anxious Generation. And they shared this one story of a 13-year-old girl who was not allowed to be on Instagram. And what she did was she hid her Instagram account under the calculator feature on her phone. So now she had all this exposed content that she wasn't allowed to be on, but she was hiding sneaky ways of trying to expose herself to Instagram, although she knew that that was not something that she was supposed to. Now, within a year, anxiety and depression increased. She ended up reporting that she had an eating disorder, and like her content was just not appropriate for her and where she was. So again, cultivating that safe space and that opportunity to where you can talk about it is more important than constantly trying to find what it is that they're on, right? It's about having that conversation. The importance of communication, right? I think that's the biggest part, is having communications with your kids. And then talking to them about what you do with social media. You don't share your personal information on social media. You do not give away your physical address, passwords, financial information, right? Because there's so many hackers trying to get into, and then that affects us as parents, right? How much of my information went out as well? So encouraging the privacy settings, being mindful, and kind posting, right? Because again, when something's up on the internet, it's difficult to take it back down if it's already been screenshotted, which is, it's also important to do as a form of reporting. So empowering children and youth to be safe online.
So these are just some ways on how to encourage students or the youth to be safe online, and that's by teaching the kids how to use online etiquette. And that is by, showing respect to one another through social media. Also, thinking before they post something. Ask them, like, how would you feel if that was done to you? You wouldn't want that, to be put something against them either. So also encouraging children to report harmful online interactions, provide them steps on how to, if they feel unsafe, how to recognize, again, the cyberbullying behaviors. Let's ask them, how does that make them feel? And also role playing, how to respond to cyberbullying. For example, tell the person to stop, right? Again, telling them how to take steps on how to stop the person from cyberbullying. Also being an upstander if they see bullying happening online, for them to stop it. Also just blocking or reporting the offender as well can come.
And it's a simple removing themselves out of that. I did want to touch the teaching kids about digital etiquette, right? If they can't, one thing that we teach our littles often in our presentations is if they can't change it in 1 minute, we don't talk about it, right? That goes as far as like comments as well online, right? People post pictures of themselves, maybe with themselves, a group of friends, or maybe with family. There's certain things, certain dynamics that we cannot change about ourselves. I can't get curly hair in a minute, so we're just not going to bring it up. We're just not going to talk about it, right? I can't grow another 2 feet, right? If I'm short, I can't grow 2 feet in 1 minute, so we're just not going to talk about it, right? We're going to use our words in a powerful way, right? To comment and to bring people up and not bring them down, because the comment can go a long way, just like Casey had shared earlier with the bias-based bullying, cyberbullying. And so we're going to talk a little bit on cognitive empathy.
Empathy is such an important practice. The act of empathy and the practice of empathy is really being able to connect with the feeling that we experience and see that in another and acknowledge it. Cognitive empathy is a little bit different because it's embodying the thought process that goes into an action. So there's the feeling, but there's also the thought process that goes along with it. So when we're going online and our youth are making posts on social media that could be harmful, we want to encourage them to think about, do the perspective taking. How is this going to impact the other person that is on the receiving end of the cyberbullying? So empathy is really, it's a skill and it's a practice that we want to cultivate in our youth, and it's really important. So how to cultivate this? It's interconnected with social empathy, which is understanding the person's emotions, but there's also the thought process that goes around with it. So cultivating and enhancing cognitive empathy in our youth reduces the participation of bias-based cyberbullying. So empathy in general, just even outside in the day-to-day world, is super important,
Right.
so that we have healthy relationships. So we not only want to practice it online and social media, but also in our day-to-day.
Right. And to add to that, there was a practice that Ohana Health shared with us, and it's called the social media reset. And I'd love for you guys to open up this conversation, maybe next time that you guys are together as a family, and talk to your youth about how they feel when they are on social media. How are they feeling in that moment? Are they feeling good about themselves, or are they not feeling so good about themselves? One thing that you can do, and I would express the importance of this, but all they have to do is go up to their search engine and just type in things that make them happy, right? So for me, it's like culinary, right? Or talking about, new fitness trends, or just something that I agree with, that aligns with what makes me happy, right? That'll reset the algorithm on the phone, on the social media app, and it'll change up the feed that's coming up on the phone. So I really encourage you to have that conversation with your youth and see if that's something that can work for them, right? Because there's no doubt that they're going to be on the screen. We will just want to provide a couple of helpful tips that can help make them feel better instead of worse, right?
Just want to talk a little bit about the developmental stages that our youth are in. So we have a whole district here, probably some families that are at different grade levels. And particularly in the middle school and the high school stages, the relationships are everything. They're everything. And the relationships they have online and the cyberbullying, that can be really, really damaging, and really keeping a close watch on what we're noticing in our youth, because the power of the group mind, if you will, on social media can really contribute to the ruminating thought. So if a youth is getting pulled into some kind of incident that's going on between themselves and peers, or just another person, that can really distract them from everything else. And so as a parent, we want to just be mindful and observing them regularly, as we would want to do anyway, for any types of changes, because it's relational, and the feelings can get hurt really quickly. So just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and believe it or not, the middle school mind in particular is one where there's very little kind of net between thought and action. And so what you see with the immediacy of the cell phone and how these thoughts in the adolescent mind, because this part of their brains isn't fully developed yet, tends to just leak right out. And that's something that's kind of a lifelong lesson, is really kind of taking that time to see the impact of what they're going to say, or what they're going to write, or what they're going to post, all that kind of stuff. And so at this level in particular, along with the power of the phone, needs to come the responsibility of thinking about what you're going to say before you post it or say it or something like that. And it's not something inherently that they do a really good job at this stage. So please keep that in mind and have that conversation.
Yeah, we'll touch a little bit more on that in just a second. Coming up, oh, look at that, the next slide. So this welcome, yes. So there's cyberbullying laws, and which states California Civil Code Section 1714(1), parent liability for a minor's actions. Parents or legal guardians can be held financially responsible for damages caused by their minor child's willful misconduct including cyberbullying and what can result of that, right? This includes property damage, emotional distress, or physical harm resulting from bullying. So know that there's a liability, and that has a pretty hefty financial toll should there be any negative consequences from their actions. And Sean, I wanted to open up the floor for you to talk a little bit about just the cyberbullying and how that aligns with like your school policies and ed code.
Well, obviously, Ed Code has quite a bit in there in regards to cyberbullying, and whether the event happened. First of all, our campus does not allow cell phones, thank goodness, and we never will. But things that happen after school, things that happen on the weekends, though not expressly under the auspices of the school, it impedes an ability for a student to come safely to school or stops them from wanting to come to school. That does fall under our purview. So that is something that we investigate as well. Now, there's some things that happen via media that fall outside of what the school is able to do, in which case we've had these instances in the past, we inform the parents that they need to seek law enforcement, because law enforcement is something else that could be an ally in this. If something really icky is sent over over media, then law enforcement definitely is the one you want to call. As far as we're concerned, we really want to handle any, squabbles or beefs on online in-house as much as we can, because it does affect kids. Kids do not want to attend. All the stuff and all the data you guys saw before is absolutely true, that kids will avoid school because something embarrassing came out, or their friend group has kicked them out, something like that. We directly involve ourselves with that. We like to take a restorative approach if possible and teach that empathy, and have that mirror our face-to-face conversations, but also our social media conversations. But if it does not work, we are well within our rights to aggressively pursue disciplinary action against the student and involve the family and let them know the next steps if this is going to continue, because it is absolutely unacceptable at school. Every kid has a right to come here, has a right to be safe, and receive the education, the best education that they possibly can. So we actively address that. Knock on wood, we haven't had a whole heck of a lot of that. And what we have seen is kind of low level. But I think it's important for the school to kind of go above and beyond and involve themselves in that, really bring everybody to the table and say this is absolutely unacceptable. We are also fortunate to have a school where students are unafraid to let us know what's going on. We'll receive emails over the weekend. We'll receive tips. Like I said, that see something, say something, anonymous reporting app, and we jump on that stuff. A lot of it happens on the weekend. The usage on the weekend doubles or even triples sometimes. And all that free, unfettered access to the world at their fingertips, sometimes things go wrong. Right. Sometimes that impulsivity gets a little bit out of control. But what we are finding is using an empathetic approach and a restorative approach, kids can kind of understand how that made the other person feel. And this is a rough 3 years of education. And our goal is kind of to teach kids how to be good citizens and good people. And so it's something we involve ourselves in. We've gotten really good at it. Like I said, there's very little that goes on that we don't know about. Right. So we pride ourselves in doing that. Yeah. And I like that. Sorry, I like that fear. I like that they can always see us on the weekends, because most of the time we can. So tell them that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sean.
Of course.
All right, so we want to share an acronym that's pretty popular within cyberbullying, and it's the STAND acronym. Support your child emotionally. So again, the active role playing, the cognitive approach to empathy, talking openly and gather information, right? We talked about it in our last workshop. Make sure that we are calm as we are receiving information, and we're not reaction forward, so they find the safety to come back to talk to us and help report if needed. Act by reporting the issue. What are ways that you can report? And again, the role playing is super important, and just letting them know that they can report and it's not a bad thing to report. navigating next steps together. So moving forward from a situation, you want to make sure that they feel that they can lean in on you as a parent, that, you know, if they say, I got it, that you are respectful of their boundary, as well as if they say, I need help, right? And you allowing them that opportunity to lean in on you and working on that solution together. And then develop resilience and educate, which I think just falls into what I just said, right? It's together. How are we going to move forward together? And we're going to go into a couple of role playing. So I'd love for there to be any comments, like maybe we can read off on screen. Okay. Yeah, you guys can share your comments on the chat box. But let's talk about role playing, right? So this is our embarrassing photo scenario. You find out that an embarrassing photo of your child or youth has been shared widely in their friend group without their consent. They are feeling anxious and refusing to go to school. What steps would you take? So let's go ahead and give ourselves about 5 minutes so we can allow some brainstorming, some chit chat, and let's see if we can all together, I mean, there's different ways to approach this, and I'd love to hear what everybody at home, in the room, how would we approach the situation? Okay, take a few minutes.
I know.
You take it from me.
Yeah. Well, we're such a. No, we're still. But you want to meet that and that. That needs to. Yeah. We have this secret. Sure, absolutely, yeah. Um, Look at that ratio, 4 to 1. Nice.
Are we back? Yep. Okay. All right. And I would love to hear some of the chat feedback as well. So y'all, this is a situation that has happened, definitely, has happened at our school. And so we were able to kind of talk offline a little bit about what would go on. And a lot of different kind of avenues and scenarios went. We decided, obviously, there are some pictures that if they are kind of transported across social media would involve law enforcement immediately. So we're thinking, somebody had ice cream smeared on their face or something like that, something innocuous, but enough to make the kid like not want to come to school, that everybody's making fun of them. I don't want to even go to my locker because I'm scared people are going to laugh at me. And that's legitimate. That's a real thing. And so with the amazing parent that I spoke to, there was a little bit of, I wonder what I should do. And so this is great hypothetical because this is what I should do. And my thought initially, I actually jumped up a little bit. And the parent is the one that actually definitely said, I would have my daughter go and talk to the counselor. And by doing that, the counselor can kind of maybe work that social situation a little bit and see if there's a way to, instill that empathy, and at the same time kind of counsel the student on feeling that coming to school is okay. If the counselor finds that there's a little bit more that is necessary at that point, then I know my counselor personally would come straight over and talk to me and involve me in that as well. I think the best thing possible, and we're such a tight little community, y'all, parent to parent is probably the most powerful thing that you could do because this parent loves their child, this parent loves their child, and so that there's an automatic connection there. And if they were to really say what happened to their kids, I think that parent instinct kicks in, and you can say, hey, I get it. And we've had wild success when the parent to parent thing comes in, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we have parents and kids come in at the same time, and we facilitate that conversation at the school. Really, the number one concern is let's get this kid to school so that they feel safe and happy and they learn. That's really all we're talking about. So killer situation, one that is not uncommon to schools.
Right.
But at the same time, I know the majority of you guys have not probably gone through that. So this is neat to kind of think. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. Also empowering the students to use the anonymous survey.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
That's an
And
easy one.
it's super easy, and it's something that you guys are actively talking
Yes.
about at school. So allowing them and also approaching them and asking them, how would you like this to be solved? How can I help you solve the problem? Right? It's about empowerment as well, right?
Absolutely. And as I'm thinking back in these situations, oftentimes one of those people on that text thread will feel horrible about it. And they will come and say, Mr. Roach, this is happening. I'm kind of scared to say something, but I want to show you this, this, and this. And then we can intervene on that behalf. So remember we talked last time about being an upstander, and sometimes being an upstander is a hard thing to do, but you can also help the situation by just letting somebody know, because it's a difficult thing to be an upstander. I want us all to be eventually, but it's a hard thing, but there's still things you can do without kind of that standing up at that moment.
Right. So. And I think especially at this age,
oh,
they
don't want to look different.
Right.
Everybody's looking at me, that kind of stuff.
And they don't want to be targeted.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Or like now it turns the situation on them.
Exactly.
Right. So again, the anonymous tip line also works really well, but also having that conversation of like, hey, that conversation that we had about the picture that was going around. Thank you for standing up. Like,
absolutely.
The empathy part of that as well. Right.
And it's a school climate issue too. We want this school to be the most inclusive place possible. We want all of your kids to feel safe and valued here. We have a school culture, and we're striving to continue to have a school culture where kids feel comfortable enough to tell us what's going on at any time. And we want to be that person. We want every adult to be able to be approached so that we can learn what's going on and understand what's going on, even though it might have happened at 11 o'clock on a Saturday.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our next scenario, and we'll just give we'll give about 3 minutes for this question, just because I know we're cutting it close. So your child or youth feels left out after being removed from a group chat with their friends. They are noticeably upset and emotionally dysregulated. How would you help address the situation? So let's take a couple minutes to think about that. I also want you guys to think about that STAND acronym that we talked about earlier. So they're removed from a group chat. What would we do to help address the situation, right? Because we're probably seeing a change in behavior. Maybe they're not on their phone, or maybe they're on their phone even more, trying to investigate on their own what it is that's going on. So what is it that you would do? I would love for all of our folks online to chime in via the chat box, so I can read a couple of your guys' thoughts going on out there. So let's go ahead and give ourselves 3 minutes, and then we'll touch base again. Working out with our parents. Right.
I was just telling you, through a it's pretty slow. So you stand. All down. The first, it's likely not necessarily the parent thing, which actually did happen. But
Because then we're addressing the entire team, right? Like we have one person who removes another person who moves that person. And it was a right
yeah.
of a team of who's allowed to be
Well,
involved.
and it forces everybody else to pick. Like you're with me or you're kind of probably, and they're trying to find who the heck they are. Learning. Again, it becomes our issue really, and all of those.
It's a really good opportunity for admins to come in and sort of like,
Yeah.
you know, to like energize that.
Yeah.
Right. Because again,
I just learned I did a training 2 weeks ago at the on the office with Kelly.
yeah.
It was amazing. And she taught me, or they taught me restorative circle and how to do a restorative circle. Now you're not going to leave that friend's life, but you are going to believe feelings and the reverse. So, and a lot of this is going to end with going to take time apart.
That's okay.
Then that's okay.
Just because
And
you're
then
not
2 days later, they're walking around the track together, and you're like, "What the heck? I spent 12 hours on this." Oh, happens all the time.
Take the floor.
Okay.
We'll follow
Got
through.
it.
Your friend.
Oh,
Your friend.
and it changes.
Okay, guys, I hope you are chiming in on the chat, but this is a scenario and situation that happens quite a bit. We see a lot of our restorative opportunities happen via text chats. It's really not so much social media, it's text chats. And so we had something similar go on where a group of students offline that were part of an outside of school organization exclude one of the students. And again, this is a school issue because that exclusion began to affect the students' attendance, began to affect their grades in a bad way, began to affect we saw an increase in discipline for this student. So it is a school issue, and it's something that we want to handle, but it's not really something that we would take a disciplinary approach. We would do a restorative approach. So as a school, we're learning restorative justice and restorative practice. And one of the things that I think I would try with this one would be a restorative circle led by a counselor or myself or Mr. Jamani, in which the goal really is not to mend a friendship. It is really to be able to empathize with the other students so that you left that place feeling how they felt and they left that place feeling how you felt, and with the goal of at least making everybody feel comfortable coming to school. It does not mean you're going to be best friends necessarily, and oftentimes it's going to involve exclusion, but the school is being attended and the grades, the learning is happening and the attendance is there, and the discipline has improved. So like I said, there's not always going to be a rosy end to this at all. And you really have to look at it as an opportunity to maintain a campus where everybody feels safe coming. So again, this one is not a unique scenario. It does happen from time to time. And we talked about this age level where students really are, trying on different personas, and there is such an overwhelming need to fit in, that it's kind of a mentality where, you got to pick a side, and you don't always have to pick a side, but you do have to stand up. So it was a good scenario.
Yeah, we have somebody online who shared with us that they would validate their feelings and model taking a deep breath together or go for a walk to help them regulate, which is super important, right? Because we're not going off of reaction and feelings. Talk with them about what's happened and how they're feeling. Reach out to the parents involved to see if we can help guide the kids through the conflict. Again, the empowerment, that is what we want. We want to be able to help and support. If I don't know the parents, notify the school and see if they can set up a meeting. Give my child the option to do counseling and address the friend problems and self-esteem, because that's also one too, right? It's the self-esteem that, that hurt that can follow after. So thank you so much, Ms. Robinson, for sharing. That was great. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next part. I think those role playings are really important, because sometimes we just get disconnected or don't talk about the uncomfortable scenarios that they can encounter. But there's a lot of power that comes through that, and being able to provide the support for our kids' needs. So any questions that we may have, you guys can provide them in the chat. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move forward with a couple of other slides that we have, because we have some pretty fun stuff to share with you guys on a lighter note. So if you guys lighter note. So if you'd have any questions, please feel free to chime in on the chat box, and we will address those to the best of our possibilities. All right, so we are going to talk about a couple of resources that you can use. Obviously, there's a lot of school counselors here, especially here at PG Middle. We have Denise, she's a bullying prevention coach who is here once a week on Wednesdays. Your students can report anonymously. They have communication with Mr. Roach, and just any trusted adult that they have here at school, right? They have the tip line that's also super important that they can use. It's the resource that they have at their fingertips. And then going more on a national scale, if we go, the stopbullying.gov has all updated laws and responsibilities, that we're all supposed to uphold. They also provide different scenarios that you might not know how to address, and they provide some good guidance on that. So I definitely encourage any parents going through that, addressing that, and seeing. Sometimes they tell you directly, like, this is something that you can address to law enforcement or to the school counselor, to admin. I also talked about the tools that you guys can use, the apps. So Custodian, Bark, Net Nannies, those are other softwares that you can add onto the phones to just help support with what it is that's going on their phone. So our next session is going to be students' rights and parents' responsibility. That'll also be held virtually as well as in person. And that'll be at 6 p.m. and will be here in person at PG Middle. And yeah, so we have a really fun event that is going to be on February 28th. So within a couple of weeks, we're going to be taking over the Northridge Mall. And Pink Shirt Day basically started back in Nova Scotia, Canada. And one student wore a pink shirt to school one day, and his first day, and he was bullied. Some upper grades classmen said, you know, that's not okay. We are going to rally up all of our friends. And in a school of almost 1,000 students, 800 of them wore a pink shirt in support of that student who had been bullied. So this is a big event that we're doing. And I'd love for Casey to come on up here and talk a little bit about the work that we're doing here at PG Middle, because we are going to have some of our students up there presenting. We have some really fun activities. They're going to be our sub-theme this year for Pink Shirt Day is kindness superheroes. So they're going to be getting books on anti-bullying. There's going to be capes. There's going to be t-shirts, many resources available, and everybody's standing up against bullying. So super event. I hope you guys can make it, and I'll let you chime in on that.
So we have had the good fortune of having our partner from You Will Rise. Paul Richmond and his team have been coming into PG Middle. Tomorrow is our last day of this workshop series, and we hope to continue on. We're also working in Forest Grove Elementary. We have another site in a different district. So our students have been spending their time creating art, and here on the slide we have a couple of examples that some students here created, and Paul Richmond and his team come in and really do a lesson on bullying and encourage the students to express themselves in any form. So the students are encouraged to think about if they want to do a fashion show, if they want to sing a song, if they want to do it. They even have a dance routine over here at PG Middle. They're really excited for the opportunity to uplift their expression. So we're providing that for them at Pink Shirt Day, and I'm just so grateful that we've been able to spend time with the students, and it really is special. They're loving their time, and it's just a beautiful reflection of how amazing they are. So that's one component of our Rainbow Connections project that we're implementing. Another component is here with Vermont Home and Denise providing the anti-bullying club and the support for the students that are experiencing bullying.
Yeah, so again, we encourage everyone to come on down to the mall. Again, that'll be on the 28th of this month from 4 to 7. And there we go. And again, we're going to have an author doing the reading on her book from Cielito Lindo Literature. We're going to have mariachi, we're going to have a folklorico, and we're going to have a drum line leading the march against anti-bullying. So this is going to be a really big, fun event for the kids, and really just an empowerment of the community coming together and standing up and being upstanders as a whole. So I really look forward to hopefully seeing you guys up there. Come up and say hello, introduce yourself, and let us know where your kid is at. And just like last time, we'd like to leave you all with this powerful quote. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. Let's all be kind and raise kind kids. Have a good evening, everyone.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. You're right. Hold on, let me pull that up. And it's right here. You want me to put that in a slideshow?
Oh, that would be
there we go.
amazing. Okay. For those of you in person or online, this is Smart Social. This is a gentleman named Josh Oakes, who has worked with the district in the past and really focuses on how to put your best self out there on social media and on the internet and stuff like that. And he talks a little bit about, some of the research that colleges do into the backgrounds of students, and he doesn't want you guys to mess that up just yet. But it also is, if you sign up for this, you guys, and I still get these, there's a weekly newsletter that lets you know about new apps that you need to be aware of. And he often says that he has an army of mothers throughout the nation who feed him information on these new apps and these trends that may take, the mainstream media a long time to find out about. He finds it out very quickly. So I really highly recommend scanning that QR code, signing up for the weekly newsletter, and be a part of what he's doing too, because this is going to be important for you guys to monitor where your kids are going. Make sure they're safe and make sure they're kind. So is there another slide too?
There's 3.
Yeah, and I talked about that, but there's another slide too if you guys want to watch it. Awesome. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to my my team here, and we'll see you in a month, the second Tuesday of March. Thank you guys.
Have a good one. Hi, team.